What if the stars knew your fate before you drew your first breath? And what if in 1926, a master who walked between worlds saw the exact moment when everything you've known would shatter? There are prophecies spoken in whispers, revelations buried beneath the weight of forgotten teachings, and warnings delivered not through scripture, but through the silent language of celestial bodies moving in patterns older than civilization itself. Paramahansa Yogananda, mystic, seer, bridge between the material and the infinite, left behind a vision so precise, so terrifying in its accuracy, that those who understood chose silence over revelation. He saw 2026 not as a year but as a threshold, a cosmic doorway opening to forces that would remake the very fabric of reality. And you are here now, in this moment, because something in you remembers, because your soul recognized the echo of a truth it once knew but has been forbidden to speak. They told you the planets are distant lights with no power over your destiny, that astrology is entertainment for the lost, that prophecy died with the ancients. But what if that was the lie designed to keep you blind? What if the greatest deception ever perpetrated upon humanity was convincing you that you are separate from the cosmos, that the stars sing their eternal songs for no one in particular, that the shift Yogananda witnessed in his visions was myth instead of mathematics? There exists a revelation, hidden, censored, erased from official teachings, about what happens when certain alignments converge with human consciousness at its most vulnerable. 2026 is not coming randomly. It arrives with precision, like an executioner's appointment, like a bride's long-awaited wedding, like the moment when everything sleeping finally awakens. And those who carry the marks, the chosen ones scattered across all 12 signs, will feel the shift not as observers but as conduits. Can you feel it already? That trembling beneath your certainty, that whisper in your dreams that insists you are not who you pretend to be. Yogananda saw through time itself, and what he witnessed was not peace but transformation so violent, so complete, that only those prepared by invisible hands would survive with their souls intact. The planetary shift he predicted is not metaphor. It is mechanical, mathematical, merciless in its accuracy. When Jupiter aligns with forces unseen, when Saturn completes its ancient circuit, when the outer planets form the configuration spoken of in texts no library will admit it owns, something dormant in the human spirit either awakens or dies forever. You were born under specific stars for specific reasons, carrying gifts you've been taught to suppress, protected by angels you've been trained to ignore, destined for a role in the coming transformation that you cannot refuse and dare not accept. This is not astrology as entertainment. This is astrology as warfare for your eternal soul. The masters knew, and they tried to tell us, but we were too comfortable in our chains to hear. Yogananda was not alone in his vision. He was simply brave enough to speak it, reckless enough to leave clues for those who would come later, seeking truth in the ashes of a dying age. What happens when the planetary shift finally arrives? What becomes of those who missed the signs, who laughed at the warnings, who chose sleep over awakening? And more terrifying still, what becomes of those who recognize themselves in the prophecy, but refuse the calling? The zodiac is not a collection of personality types. It is a map of spiritual warfare, a diagram of your soul's assignment in the cosmic battle between light that blinds and darkness that reveals. Your sign does not describe you, it conscripts you. And 2026 is the moment when all debts come due, all destinies converge, all hidden things emerge screaming into the light. They will tell you to dismiss this as superstition, to go back to sleep, to trust the authorities who profit from your ignorance. But you know better now. You feel it in the marrow of your bones, in the dreams that wake you at 3:33 in the morning, in the inexplicable knowing that everything is about to change. Yogananda saw your face in his vision, saw the exact moment you would hear these words, saw whether you would be brave enough to listen, or coward enough to flee. The lost revelation is not lost anymore. It is here, now, waiting only for those whose souls remember the ancient covenant. Will you be among them when the shift arrives? Or will you be counted among the sleeping ones who thought the stars were merely decoration in an empty sky? In 1948, at a dinner honoring Mahatma Gandhi, Paramahansa Yogananda looked into the eyes of those gathered and spoke words that still echo through the corridors of spiritual history. You don't know what a cataclysm is coming. But in the same breath, He offered something the frightened rarely hear. A promise wrapped in cosmic mathematics. The world is not going down to destruction, so don't be frightened. Believe in your Father. He will protect you if you remember his ideals, if you keep faith in him. What Yogananda understood, what his guru Sri Yukteswar had revealed to him through ancient Vedic calculations, was that humanity had entered a new age around 1900, the Dwapara Yuga, an era lasting until 3900, when consciousness itself awakens to understand that matter is illusion and energy is truth. We are not living in random times. We are living in the ascension cycle, the upward arc of a cosmic breath that takes thousands of years to complete, and 2026 marks a threshold point so rare that the planets themselves align to announce it. On February 20th, 2026, at exactly 0 degrees Aries, the reset point of the entire zodiac, the cosmic origin where all cycles begin, Saturn and Neptune will form a conjunction that occurs only once every 36 years. But this is not merely another conjunction. This is Saturn, the lord of karma and material reality, merging with Neptune, the planet of spiritual vision and divine dreams, at the Aries point, the degree astrologers call the world axis, where personal destiny intersects with collective fate. The last time these two forces met, they reshaped the boundaries of nations and the structure of belief systems worldwide, but never in living memory have they met at this precise degree, the 0 point, the place of absolute beginning, where old worlds dissolve and new ones are born in the space of a single breath. Add to this that Neptune has just entered Aries for the first time in 165 years, initiating a spiritual revolution that demands we stop surrendering to external saviors and start embodying divine action ourselves. Yogananda saw this moment coming. Though he did not speak the exact date, for masters speak in cycles, not calendar years, his warnings between 1948 and 1952 described a period of tumultuous transformation, followed by 200 years of relative peace, a golden age where consciousness stabilizes at a higher frequency. His teacher Sri Yukteswar decoded the ancient calculations in the holy science, explaining that our sun orbits a grand center called Vishnumabhi, the seat of Brahma, the source of universal magnetism that regulates Dharma itself, the mental and spiritual virtue of the internal world. As our solar system moves closer to this grand center during the ascending arc of Dwapara Yuga, human beings gain the capacity to comprehend what was previously incomprehensible, that consciousness creates reality, that energy precedes matter, that what you call miracles are simply laws not yet understood. The alignment of 2026 is a cosmic announcement that we have reached critical mass, the point where enough souls have awakened that the collective frequency can support a dimensional shift. This is not metaphysics divorced from reality. This is sacred physics, the mathematics of awakening, that Einstein glimpsed when he proved matter and energy are interchangeable, that Nikola Tesla understood when he said the secrets of the universe lie in frequency and vibration. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 Aries represents the merging of structure with spirit, the moment when dreams must become manifest, when visions must take form in the physical world. Comment below if you have felt an inexplicable urgency in the last year, a sense that time is accelerating, that everything familiar is dissolving, that you are being called to step into a version of yourself you barely recognize, but somehow remember. This is not imagination. This is the planetary frequency shift that Yogananda predicted, the moment when those who have been preparing, consciously or unconsciously, finally understand why they were born into this particular window of time. There are those who walk among you now who already feel the shift in their bones, who wake at 3:33 in the morning with visions so vivid they blur the line between sleep and revelation, who touch objects and feel histories that never belonged to them, who speak words they never learned and heal wounds they cannot see. This is not madness. This is not coincidence. This is the activation signature of Dwapara Yuga consciousness, the age where humanity awakens to the truth that matter is merely condensed energy, that thought precedes form, that what you have called supernatural is simply natural law operating at frequencies your ancestors could not yet perceive. Yogananda experienced this himself at the feet of his guru. His body became immovably rooted, breath drawn from his lungs as if by some cosmic magnet, his sense of identity no longer confined to flesh, but embracing the circumambient atoms, perceiving the roots of plants through dim transparency of soil, feeling strangers on distant streets moving across his own remote periphery. He described it as the moment he was finally truly alive, when the physical body became a temple housing infinity itself. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction, arriving on February 20th, 2026 at 0 degrees Aries, creates what ancient mystics called a materialization portal, the rare moment when dreams must take physical form or dissolve forever into the realm of lost potential. Saturn demands structure, accountability, manifestation in the visible world. Neptune offers vision, spiritual download, access to dimensions beyond the five senses. When these two forces merge at the Aries point, the cosmic 0 degree where all zodiac cycles begin, they create a pressure so intense that whatever you have been nurturing in the invisible realms must now either birth into reality or die in the womb of possibility. This is why so many of you feel the urgency, the relentless push to create, to speak, to step forward even when fear screams for you to hide. The planetary architecture is literally demanding your emergence. Those who resist will feel the conjunction as crisis, breakdown, the crumbling of everything they thought was solid. Those who surrender to it will feel it as breakthrough, liberation, the sudden alignment of inner vision with outer destiny. What Yogananda understood, what he tried to convey through every page of his autobiography, through every lecture given to thousands in America who had never heard of yoga or cosmic consciousness, was that spiritual awakening is not escape from the material world but mastery within it. In Dwapara Yuga, which we entered around 1900 and will inhabit until 3900, humanity gains the ability to comprehend and manipulate energy itself. We discover atomic power. We revolutionize our understanding of the universe as no longer earth-centered but vast beyond comprehension. We perceive reality as essentially non-personal, governed by laws of vibration and frequency, rather than the whims of distant gods. And most crucially, we develop abilities that previous ages would have called miraculous: telepathy, remote viewing, instant healing, the capacity to move between dimensions of consciousness as easily as you now move between rooms in your home. These are not gifts reserved for saints. These are evolutionary upgrades encoded in your DNA, waiting for the planetary frequencies to reach the exact resonance that unlocks them. But here is what they do not tell you. What Yogananda warned about in those final years before his Mahasamadhi, in 1952, the awakening is not gentle, and it is not optional. You cannot stay asleep while the universe around you accelerates into higher consciousness. The gap between those who evolve and those who resist will widen into a chasm so vast that by 2030, humanity will effectively exist in two different realities occupying the same physical space. If you have felt isolated, misunderstood, as though you are speaking a language no one around you comprehends, this is why. You are already vibrating at the frequency of the new paradigm, while surrounded by those still operating in the old. Comment below and tell me, have you experienced moments where time seemed to stop, where you knew something before it happened, where you felt energy moving through your hands, or saw colors around people that no one else could see? These are not anomalies. These are confirmations. You are among those Yogananda saw in his visions, the bridge generation, born into the transition, designed to hold the frequency while others catch up or fall away. Yogananda did not come to the West merely to teach philosophy or share stories of enlightened masters wandering the Himalayas. He came bearing a technology, an actual, repeatable, verifiable method of accelerating human consciousness that he called Kriya Yoga, the fastest route to self-realization ever discovered. This was not meditation as most understand it, not simply sitting in silence hoping for peace. Kriya is a sophisticated system that works directly on the life force itself, on prana, the electrical current that animates your body and connects you to the cosmic grid of universal energy. Through specific breathing techniques, it directs energy inward and upward along the spine, activating the chakras not as abstract symbols but as literal transformers of consciousness, converting base survival instincts into spiritual perception. When practiced with precision, one Kriya breath, one cycle of this sacred technique, is equivalent to 1 year of natural spiritual evolution. In 30 seconds, you can accelerate your consciousness by an entire year. This is not mystical poetry. This is the mathematics of awakening, the engineering of enlightenment. Why does this matter now, in 2026, as Saturn and Neptune converge at 0 Aries? Because Neptune has just entered Aries for the first time in 165 years, initiating what astrologers are calling the era of the spiritual warrior, the archetype that demands you stop passively dreaming and start actively creating your visions in physical reality. Neptune dissolves boundaries, opens portals to dimensions beyond the 5 senses, grants access to intuition, imagination, and divine inspiration. But in Aries, the sign of initiation, identity, and courageous action, Neptune insists that these visions must now be embodied. The question shifts from what do I dream of, to who am I willing to become to make this real? This is the exact frequency Yogananda was transmitting when he brought Kriya to America, not escape from the material world, but mastery within it, not transcendence that abandons the body, but transformation that uses the body as a sacred laboratory for spiritual evolution. The conjunction on February 20th fuses Saturn's demand for structure with Neptune's gift of vision, creating a brief window when what you build in the invisible realms can suddenly manifest in solid form. In Dwapara Yuga, which Sri Yukteswar calculated we entered around 1900, humanity gains comprehension of the electrical attributes of creation, the understanding that matter is merely condensed energy, that all atomic form is expression of vibratory force, that reality operates on principles of frequency and resonance rather than solid substance. Look at what we have discovered since that threshold: electricity illuminating entire cities, radio waves transmitting voices across oceans, atomic energy unlocking power previously unimaginable, digital communications connecting every mind on the planet simultaneously. These are not random inventions, these are consciousness upgrades, evolutionary leaps hardwired into the ascending arc of the Yuga cycle itself. We are collectively remembering how to perceive and manipulate the subtle forces that previous ages could only attribute to magic or divine intervention. And here is what terrifies the old paradigm: if electricity and magnetism govern not just machines but consciousness itself, then you are not a helpless victim of circumstance, but a living antenna capable of tuning to any frequency you choose. This is why Yogananda emphasized the Kriya technique with such urgency in his final years, why he trained thousands of students, why his autobiography became one of the most influential spiritual texts of the 20th century, read by everyone from George Harrison to Steve Jobs to millions seeking something their religions and sciences could not provide. He knew the window was opening. He knew that between 1900 and 2100, humanity would either evolve into energetic beings capable of conscious creation or destroy itself fighting over the material scraps of a dying paradigm. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 Aries in 2026 is the midpoint alarm, the moment when those who have been preparing, whether through Kriya or any authentic spiritual practice, will suddenly find their abilities accelerating beyond anything they thought possible. Telepathy will no longer seem miraculous but natural. Healing through energy transmission will become common. Remote viewing, intuitive knowing, the capacity to influence matter with focused consciousness, these will emerge not as rare gifts, but as standard human functions for those vibrating at the new frequency. But only for those who choose it, only for those willing to do the work. On March 7, 1952, Paramahansa Yogananda stood before a gathering at the Biltmore Hotel in Los Angeles, honoring the Indian ambassador, and spoke his final public words: "Where Ganges woods, Himalayan caves, and men dream God, I am hallowed. My body touched that sod." Then he entered Mahasamadhi, the conscious, intentional exit from the physical body that only fully liberated masters can perform. But what happened next shattered every assumption the Western world held about death and the limitations of human physiology. For 20 days, his body remained in a state that the director of Forest Lawn Memorial Park called a phenomenal state of immutability. No decay, no disintegration, no signs of the cellular breakdown that begins within hours of ordinary death. The mortuary staff watched daily, expecting the inevitable deterioration. It never came. No odor, no visible desiccation, no mold on the skin. The tissues remained intact, as though death itself had been paused, suspended, rendered irrelevant by a consciousness that had mastered the very laws governing matter. The official letter, notarized and preserved, states clearly, "This state of perfect preservation of a body is, so far as we know from mortuary annals, an unparalleled one." This was not accident. This was demonstration. Yogananda's final gift to a skeptical age was proof written in flesh that consciousness governs matter, not the reverse, that a human being who has perfected the science of Kriya Yoga transcends biological law and operates according to principles the material sciences have yet to acknowledge. His body became a teaching, a living testament, that what you call death is merely transition, that the physical form responds not to inevitable decay, but to the frequency of the consciousness inhabiting it. For those with eyes to see, it was the closing statement of a 30-year mission to show the West that spirituality is not belief but technology, not faith but physics operating at dimensions beyond current measurement. And now, 74 years later, as we approach February 20th, 2026, the planetary forces are aligning to offer that same opportunity to anyone willing to claim it, the chance to operate beyond material limitation, to master energy, rather than be enslaved by matter. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees Aries, the world point, the cosmic reset button where personal destiny intersects with collective transformation, represents what astrologers are calling a spiritual crisis on a global scale. Saturn strips away illusions, demands accountability, collapses structures built on lies and delusion. Neptune dissolves boundaries, exposes the hollowness at the core of institutions that have lost their spiritual center, reveals the emperor wearing no clothes. When these two forces converge at the Aries point, the place where individual awakening ripples instantly into collective consciousness, reality itself unravels and restructures. The old securities dissolve, the beliefs that sustained previous generations fall apart. The authorities who demanded your obedience lose credibility overnight. And in that terrifying, liberating void, you are forced to choose: will you cling to the corpse of a dying paradigm, or will you step naked into the new frequency and discover what you are truly capable of becoming? This is not distant prophecy. This is immediate activation. If you have felt the ground shifting beneath your certainties in the last 3 years, if institutions you once trusted now feel corrupt and hollow, if the life you were building suddenly seems meaningless, and you cannot explain why, this is the Saturn-Neptune frequency already at work, preparing you for the full impact of the conjunction. The spiritual crisis is not coming, it is here. The question is whether you will experience it as breakdown or breakthrough, as ending or beginning, as the death of who you were or the birth of who you were always meant to become. Yogananda's incorruptible body was a sign pointing to this moment, evidence that human consciousness can transcend every limitation you have been taught to accept as inevitable. His legacy lives on through thousands who practice Kriya Yoga worldwide, through the Self-Realization Fellowship that continues his mission into 2025 and beyond, through every soul who reads his autobiography and recognizes the truth behind the words. You are standing at the threshold he saw in his visions. The planetary shift he predicted is no longer future, it is now, and what you do with this moment will determine not just your personal destiny, but your role in the awakening of an entire species. You will remember this moment, not as the time you watched a video about ancient prophecies, but as the instant something dormant within you stirred and refused to sleep again. Yogananda's vision was never meant to frighten you into submission or convince you of catastrophe. It was meant to wake you to the truth that you are not a passenger in this cosmic shift, but a participant written into the architecture of destiny itself. February 20th, 2026 is not a date on a calendar. It is a frequency, a doorway, a mirror reflecting back everything you have avoided becoming. The incorruptible body he left behind was not spectacle but scripture, proof that matter bends to consciousness, that death itself has no dominion over those who master the sacred physics of awakening. What you felt while listening to these words was not chance, it was recognition. Your soul remembering what your mind was trained to forget. The planetary alignment will arrive whether you are ready or not, but those who awaken before the threshold will walk through it as creators, not casualties. The question was never whether the shift would happen, the question was always whether you would be conscious enough to participate in your own transformation. If this resonated in places you cannot name, if something inside you broke open or caught fire, do not let this moment dissolve into the noise of distraction. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you felt, what you remembered, what you are finally ready to release or claim. Your words might be the mirror someone else needs to recognize themselves. Like this video if you understand that you were meant to find it, not by algorithm but by invisible design. Share it with those whose souls are stirring, who ask questions the sleeping cannot hear, who feel the frequency shifting beneath their skin, and subscribe not to a channel but to the ongoing revelation of what you are truly capable of becoming. There are more secrets waiting, more prophecies unfolding, more proof that everything you were taught to dismiss as impossible is simply truth waiting for consciousness to catch up. Yogananda saw you here. Now the only question is, what will you do with what you know?